Hello, my creative friends. So, I finally learned how to use my Addi egg to make this cute pumpkin stem. And I thought it might be a good idea to just share with you how I did it. If you don't know who I am, I'm Deborah and I'm the hands behind Taylor's Yarn Creations. This is an orange knitted pumpkin that I made on the large Addi machine. I used one of the videos that I'll link below to actually make this. But it took me a moment to learn how to use this Addi egg. So I had it for some time, but I just didn't know how to use it. Now I'm going to be using, what you need is you're going to need something bendable, like I'm using this Easy Garden 16-inch plant soft tie, and I'll link it below. This is the Addi egg itself. You're going to need a piece of this plant tie. You're going to need your yarn, of course, and I'm using this yarn. I think it's from Hobby Lobby. It is like an olive green cotton yarn. It's a 4-ply weight, but it's a lot. It's pretty thin. You really don't want to use a thick yarn in your Addi egg. I also have a tapestry needle just in case I need to use it to drop it down in there if I can't get the yarn to fit down there properly. But once you get your Addi egg, you want to go ahead and take the lid off. I saw a video where somebody marked their first needle, and I did decide to mark my needle as well, so I know how many times I go around. Sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time it doesn't really matter, because I just need to get enough to cover this soft tie. So to get started, let me share with you how I learned how to cast this on. If you ever use a knitting machine, an Addi knitting machine, you know how to cast on. But I'm going to show you how to do it using the Addi egg, because it really meant something. Because it took me a minute to actually get it. You're also going to need a pair of scissors. I didn't have that on there. So to cast on, there's a little hole right there, and I'm going to just put my yarn through it. It has to be thin enough to fit it. This yarn works pretty good to get it down. I'll pull it a little bit, then I'll drop it down in there. If you have a hard time putting your yarn down through the hole, you could just put the yarn onto a tapestry needle and just drop it. Just that simple. And then there's your needle coming out. You just pull it on through. No need to struggle, no need to get your hands caught up in it or anything like that. So I'm going to turn my first hook so that it sits right on the opposite side. If it's facing me, it's going to be to my left. If you're left-handed, it may be to your right. It just depends on how you do it. Next, you're going to want to create a slip knot. I found this to be quite easy. You want to do a slip knot, so that if you need to take your yarn down again, you won't have a knot. So you want to create a slip knot, and you want to put your Addi egg on it. And I like the slip knot because then I can tighten the yarn on the Addi egg. So that gives it some weight. Now the thing about the Addi egg is you're going to have to probably let it hang on the side so that you can begin to turn it, and the weight will pull the yarn through. I use this to determine if I need to knit a longer I-cord. So let's go ahead and get started with the casting on. I'm going to go ahead and give myself some extra yarn here, just so that it's not pulling. It doesn't have that many hooks, but I found this way to be so much easier than some of the ways I did see. When you're casting on, you're going to go under, behind, under, behind, under, behind, all the way until you get back to this stitch. Then you want to go ahead and just it's a little awkward, go ahead and crank it a little bit to make sure that it catches. As you can see, it's catching. See if I can move it up. It's catching real nicely. Turning and catching, turning and catching. You can see my little egg is bouncing around. And then as it does that, then I'm gonna go ahead and snap my little Addi egg top back on, making sure that the yarn goes through it. It's a little awkward, but when it works beautifully. So it has these two little sides here where it clicks on. And then you may have to lift your egg a little bit off the table, but the egg is what gives it the weight to pull it down. And then you're gonna start turning. And then the I-Cord is gonna work. You wanna make sure that the egg is high enough, and as it comes out the bottom, you'll start seeing it. So I'm gonna go ahead and crank this and I'll come back. Now this worked up really fast. As you can see, the yarn is starting to come out nicely through the bottom. But when it gets to that point and you don't have enough, unless you're doing a real long one, you can undo the slip knot, and you want to move your Addi egg higher. You want to move it to where it is now catching onto your actual I-Cord. So I'm gonna move my Addi egg up, and then I'm going to just continue cranking until I have enough for this. As you can see, I probably have just a few more rows to do. It works so fast, so you have to really watch it. As you can see, you have to lift it. You can see that the Addi egg is at work. It's pulling down the cord from underneath. So I'm gonna stop right here and test it to see if I need to make any more knitted rows. You see I'm putting my soft tie inside of the and it fits right about here. So it probably needs a few more rows. I'm gonna just do that without the lid. And you have to do it where the egg doesn't touch the ground and where you have enough yarn so that it's not pulling. It likes the lid on a lot of times, but it's working so you can see. I'm almost there. So I finished that part. So at this point, once my tie is down in there and it looks like it's enough to actually cover, I don't want it to be too big, I can take my Addi loom off, the egg off. I'll put it there, and I will begin my cast off. So to cast off, it's the same way that you would do if you were using the actual Addi machine. I want to just give myself some extra yarn. I will cut it, put the yarn, put the little pieces back together, because it's like that little scissors look pretty dangerous to me. And you want to go ahead and just start, pull the little yarn through, put it onto your needle, and you want to go ahead and cast off. So to cast off, you just want to grab your yarn and put it underneath it. If you continue to, if you're not careful, you don't want it to continue to make stitches. you want to go ahead and cast it off. Just the same way you would an Addi knitting machine. Like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will be back. So here we have it. I'm weaving in my ends. I'm going to go ahead and, after I tied a few knots, tuck in the tail. And I'm going to cut off any excess yarn. And I have a long tail here, so I'm going to just twist my little tie, my little stem. It is now a stem, from a tie to a stem. Make sure it doesn't show anything. Sometimes the yarn, I guess the yarn feels like it's a little bit bigger than the actual tie itself. So I may work with that a little bit more to make sure it's not showing. May even put some glue on there, who knows. But I'll definitely make sure I get that fixed. And then I'm going to take this stem. You can fix it however you want. I'm just going to take this stem and I'm going to actually sew it onto my little knitted pumpkin. Just going to grab a little bit of the yarn, put it through. There's no fancy way of doing it. Just do it so that it's not actually, how do I say it? You have to do what's best. You want to I kind of make sure that I do a few knots in there. I don't want it flopping around, so I'm going to actually sew the stem a little bit to the pumpkin, making sure that you don't really see the actual green within the pumpkin. Make sure it's nice and tight. I don't want my pumpkin stem to bounce around a lot, so I want it to kind of be fixed. Still a little bit looser than what I like. So you're just going to keep grabbing it, using that extra yarn, weaving through it. There's no perfect way to do this. There's no exact way to do this. You just want to make sure that your pumpkin stem is positioned in a stable way, so it's not flopping all around. You want your product to represent who you are. So I'm gonna just take a little bit of the orange, just a little bit, and make sure I grab it. And then I'm going to kind of tie a knot by putting it back through the yarn. Creates it. See how it stabilizes that now? And that is, then when you're finished, you can either put it through the pumpkin yourself and then trim off any excess. Being careful not to cut the pumpkin. And then whatever is still standing, you can bend it however you want. Because you know, pumpkin stems, sometimes they grow straight, sometimes they don't. And like I say, I'm gonna have to fix this part here. Make sure it stays hidden. So what I'm gonna do with that is I'll probably take some extra yarn and just make sure I weave it in, and so that the green plant tie is not showing. And there you have it. The cutest pumpkin stem you can ever imagine. If you like tutorials like this, be sure to like, subscribe, turn on your notifications so you know the next time I upload a video.